Sharks, based on our consumptions. Oh my God.
It's pizza.
Don't worry. Take a breath.
Sorry, guys. Sharks, based on our research.
The first impression. It's something that has been preached ad nauseum in all realms of life because of its critical importance. And in the world that we live in today, you have as little as 7 seconds to sell yourself. The amount of pressure one can feel from this opportunity can be overwhelming, and mistakes that seem improbable all of a sudden manifest themselves. On opening day in 2017, Chiefs running back Kareem Hunt was starting in his first NFL game. One incredible stat from his college days was that he never lost a single fumble. That's unheard of for a 4-year starting running back. Then on his first NFL carry, he fumbled.
Kareem Hunt and his first carry as a pro is a fumble, something he never did in college.
Fortunately for Kareem Hunt, that one play didn't define his first game, and he went on to have one of the greatest debuts the league has ever seen. The opposite of Hunt's debut has also come true, and this happened in 2018. After working his way up the coaching ranks for over a decade in New England, Matt Patricia took over his first NFL head coaching job with the Detroit Lions. And on the first play of that first game, his defense took advantage of a rookie mistake.
The throw back across the field, and it's intercepted. And it's going to be a pick six for Quandre Diggs.
This is probably the greatest opening 20 seconds of a head coaching debut in NFL history. But what followed that pick six was an omen for the rest of Matt Patricia's time with the Lions. The Jets, with a rookie quarterback, would go on to put up a jaw-dropping 31 points in the third quarter, turning the game from a 17-17 tie to a massive blowout in the blink of an eye. Matt Patricia's debut ending in a blowout was brutal, but there has been worse. And in today's video, we will search for the worst coach and quarterback debut in NFL history. But first, I'd like to thank today's video sponsor, Football Battle Touchdown, a game where you play football matches with other real players in real time. This game is available on Apple and Android. Make sure to click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to try it out. The first thing that you'll want to do is join a team of real-life players and go through the graduate training program. The mechanics are simple. You need to press attack until you get a good chance to make a pass and progress against your opponent. The goal is to win as many trophies as possible and compete for a better place in the rankings. After you complete the academy, you'll want to find an active team at the pro level. With a good team, you can discuss strategies and ways to outplay your opponents in real time. Live matches are the most thrilling part of the game, and this is where you'll find yourself having tons of fun. And for those of you interested, I've got a special promotion for everyone who tries the game. This is how you enter. Number 1, when entering the game, make sure to add KTO to the beginning of your username. And then 2, reach level 5. You complete these 2 things, and you'll get a reward. Once again, thank you to today's video sponsor, Football Battle Touchdown. And make sure to click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to give the game a try. So, Matt Patricia's debut was rough, but for most first-year head coaches, it's common to struggle out the gate. In fact, that 2018 season featured 7 first-year head coaches, and all 7 lost, the worst of which was that 31-point loss by the Lions. Since 1990, 7 first-year head coaches have lost by more than 31. But what's worse than all of those, in my opinion, was Gus Bradley's Jaguars debut in 2013. While the final score wasn't as extreme, his offense put together one of the most woeful displays in modern NFL history. According to Reddit user JaguarGator9, who's also a YouTube football historian, the Jaguars offense didn't cross their own 37-yard line until there were 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That is brutal. I can't even imagine being a home fan in the stadium that day. Now, as bad as this was, the worst coaching debut of all time is very clear, and that happened in 1973. The Saints hired John North to be their head coach. He was actually hired to be the offensive coordinator that year, but the GM fired their other head coach in the preseason and promoted North to the position. And in his first game, everything went south. After going scoreless in the first, his Saints gave up 24 in the second, 21 in the third, and 17 in the fourth, leading to a final score of 62-7. This was a lopsided game in all facets, resembling that of a matchup between Alabama and the Citadel. The Saints were beaten down by opposing quarterback Dick Shiner, who had more touchdowns than incompletions, whereas John North's quarterbacks had some of the worst stat lines you'll ever see. Archie Manning had as many completions as interceptions, and his backup Bob Davis had more interceptions than yards. North was fired a little over 2 years later. Now, as far as players go, there is no position in football that gets more of the spotlight than the quarterback. Most debuts fall in the okay to mediocre category. In other words, no one really talks about them after the fact. In order to be memorable, you either have to put together a performance of a lifetime, like Cam Newton throwing for over 400 yards, or it has to be a complete disaster from beginning to finish. But not all disasters are worth remembering. So you all know that one left-handed dude who wore number 7 for the Falcons, right? Yeah, Tony Graziani, the left-handed wonder drafted out of Oregon. He was a 7th-round backup quarterback who, due to circumstances, was thrust into the starting role Week 9 of the 1997 season. In a brutal game passing the ball, Graziani threw 2 interceptions and only completed 4 passes for 24 yards before being benched. The same type of thing happened to Randy Fassani, who was a 5th-round pick out of Stanford, and he was forced to take on the starting role in Week 8 versus the 2002 Bucks. It doesn't get any harder than this, as that Bucks defense might be the greatest unit of all time. Fassani was beaten down and brutalized all game long. He would finish 5 of 18 for 46 yards and 3 interceptions before being benched. Fassani never started in another NFL game. Of course, 2 late-round picks struggling isn't headliner news. People aren't going to be talking about these performances years down the road. That same thing can't be said for Brandon Whedon. In 2012, the Browns decided to use a first-round pick on a 28-year-old quarterback. This made Whedon the oldest player ever to be taken in the first round. The Browns were hoping that because of his age, he would bring a maturity and poise with him onto the field. But before his first start, things got off on the wrong foot. Whedon got caught under the flag.
Brandon Whedon getting caught under the flag.
See, I was telling you about that maturity and that confidence, but he still is a rookie.
It's such a bizarre occurrence because when a large crew is about to run out a field-sized flag, players are made aware of what's going on, and somehow Whedon or his trainer just didn't notice. It only got worse from there. From bad passes to fumbling handoffs, Whedon couldn't get into any sort of rhythm, and he finished his opening day off with no touchdowns, a fumble, and 4 interceptions. Whedon only lasted 2 seasons in Cleveland. 4 turnovers in his starting debut was rough. In fact, only 2 players in NFL history have had more.
Who was the best value pick in the 5th round?
I thought the best value was Nate Peterman, the quarterback from Pitt.
Peterman was a 5th-round pick selected by the Buffalo Bills, and he was a backup to start the season. No one expected him to make a big appearance that year or to step in and save the Bills. But after playing during garbage time versus the Saints in Week 10 and performing well, Peterman got the starting nod versus the Chargers in Week 11 and proceeded to throw a seemingly impossible 5 first-half interceptions.
To the rookie, and they do. He floats one, and that's intercepted. Pressure coming. Peterman hit, and that is his 3rd interception of the pass. Is that almost? Did he? That game good for 19 yards. And that's the 5th interception today thrown by Peterman.
It didn't matter that Peterman was a late-round pick. He quickly became a meme. The timing of it all made it even worse. The Bills had the longest playoff drought of any team in the NFL at the time. Going into that game, they were 5-4 and had a serious chance of making the playoffs. After that game versus the Chargers, the Bills quickly went back to Tyrod Taylor, and he led them to the playoffs, making that 5-interception debut a footnote in their season story. But for Peterman himself, You have to imagine this game alone affected the rest of his career. A poor performance is one thing, but he was relentlessly mocked about it after the fact, something that he never escaped for the rest of his NFL career. But as unfathomable as it may seem, there has been one player who threw more interceptions than Peterman in his debut. In 1988, the Cardinals selected Tom Tupa in the 3rd round, and at first, he served as the backup quarterback and hardly saw the field as a rookie. In year 2, after 3 straight losses, the Cardinals decided to trot out their young second-year quarterback, and this is what happened during his first career start.
Bad snap, but Tupa handled it. Overthrown and intercepted. Tupa has it knocked away. Jerome Brown holds on. Tupa throwing it about as far as he can. Into the end zone. Intercepted. Intercepted by Seth Joyner, who's 20. Firing in, it's intercepted. Again under pressure, picked off.
Come to St. Louis, and he got here before he even talked to anybody personally about coming to the park.
Eric Allen picks off Tom Tupa's pass.
Tupa finished with 6 interceptions. Of course, it's a little inflated because one of them was a Hail Mary and another was on a 4th and 21 out of field goal range. But still, it's wild. And if this defensive player could have gotten his hands underneath the ball, he could have had 7 interceptions. This is the most by any quarterback in their debut, and it almost certainly will never be beat. Tupa's career overall was an oddly unique one. He was drafted as both a quarterback and a potential punter, and he served mostly as just the backup quarterback for his first 7 years, before moving away from that, and he became a starting punter. Tupa went on to become an all-pro punter in 1999, which just so happened to be when he stepped in as the Jets' emergency quarterback and balled out after not completing a pass in 4 years. Crazy career, and a wild first NFL start. But just because he has the highest amount of turnovers of any QB debut, it doesn't necessarily make it the worst of all time. Peterman's happened so fast and all in one half. Whedon was the 22nd overall pick and had a lot higher expectations than either of those two. Who do you guys think had the worst? Perhaps to be at the absolute bottom, there needs to be a lot higher expectations than even a 22nd overall pick. I'm talking about the number 1 overall pick. When you are the top guy selected in the draft, the spotlight is much bigger. You were picked there for a reason, and you're supposed to be great. When you fall short of that, you hear about it. And out of all the number 1 quarterbacks selected in NFL history, no one has had a tougher first start than Alex Smith. Smith went number 1 to the 49ers in 2005, and after a handful of plays in the first 4 games, Smith landed his first starting opportunity in Week 5 versus Indianapolis. This was far from the ideal team to start against. For those of you who saw my recent video on teams that started 11-0 or better, this Colts team was one of them. And on that fateful day in 2005, Alex Smith got a brutal reality check.
Of Cato June, and June, the linebacker from Michigan, has a Colts touchdown. Smith throws as he's hit, goes long for Lloyd, but that'll be intercepted by Jason David. And Smith rolling, being chased, and then throws into triple coverage. Does it count? Range and less. Down the middle, intercepted. Picked off by Cato June again, and June out to the 45-yard line as he has twin picks against young Alex Smith.
Overall, Alex Smith's whole rookie season was about as bad as it gets. He finished the year with 11 fumbles, 11 interceptions, and only 1 touchdown. But this is what makes Alex Smith's whole career an amazing story. After his first 4 years in the NFL, very few people believed in him, and most people who have struggled to this point are on their way to the bench or out of the league. Amazingly, Alex Smith eventually turned his career around. He managed to put together his first positive touchdown to interception ratio season in year 5. And from there he kept improving. He earned votes for Comeback Player of the Year in 2011 as he led the Niners to a division title. And this would be their first playoff appearance since 2002. In their first postseason matchup, the game came down to the wire. With just over 2 minutes left and down by 1, the Niners needed a play.
Smith on third down. He will take it himself for a first down and more. Alex Smith is in. Touchdown.
Unfortunately, this amazing run by Alex Smith looked all for nothing, as Drew Brees hit Jimmy Graham for a 66-yard touchdown to take back the lead. For Niners fans, it just made this ending that much sweeter.
From the 14. Smith on 3rd and 3. He throws to the end zone, and the catch is made by